But my cousin Rachel always wore black. She could not wear coloured jewels with mourning clothes. Then I saw the collar of pearls. How beautiful the white pearls would look on my cousin Rachel's neck. "Your mother was the last woman to wear this collar," the manager said. "All the brides of the Ashley family wear it on their wedding day." I put out my hand and took the collar. "I will take this with me," I said. The manager looked worried. "The pearls are not yours until the 1st of April, he said. "I don't think Mr. Kendall would like you to take them away." "I'll speak to Mr. Kendall," I said. I put the collar in its box and stood up. I knew the pearls were the right present for my cousin Rachel. I felt very excited. Then, at last, it was Christmas Eve. Seacombe had brought a tree into the house and had decorated it as usual. Dinner was to start at 5. After dinner, everybody would have a present. This year, my cousin Rachel was going to give out the presents with me. Before I dressed for dinner, I sent the collar of pearls to her room. With it was a note. "My mother was the last woman to wear this. Now it belongs to you. I want you to wear it tonight and always. Philip." When I was ready, I went downstairs and waited for my cousin Rachel. She came in slowly. Her dress was black, but it was one I had not seen before. The collar of pearls was round her neck. I had never seen her look so happy or so beautiful. She put her arms around me, and then she kissed me. She kissed me not as a cousin, but as a lover. This is what Ambrose died for, I thought, and for this I would happily die too. She gave me her hand, and we walked in to dinner. At first, I thought this was going to be the happiest evening of my life. I remember the food, the noise, and the excitement. My cousin Rachel had bought everyone a small present, carefully chosen. Mine was a gold chain for my keys, with our initials, P-A-R-A, hanging from it. Our plates and glasses were filled, emptied, and filled again. Then we gave everyone a present from the tree. When dinner was over, I spoke to my godfather, Nick Kendall, for the first time that evening. "Good evening, sir, and Happy Christmas," I said. Nick Kendall looked angry, and he said nothing. He was staring at the collar of pearls around my cousin's neck. Then at last the tenants had all left. Louise and my cousin Rachel went upstairs, and I found myself alone with my godfather. "I have some bad news from the bank," he said. "The manager tells me that Mrs. Ashley is already several £100 overdrawn. I don't understand it. She must be sending money back to Italy." "She is very generous," I said, "and there were debts in Florence, I think. You must give Mrs. Ashley more money." Nick Kendall looked unhappy. "There is something else, Philip," he said. "You should not have taken that collar of pearls. It is not yours." "It will be mine in 3 months' time," I said quickly. "My cousin Rachel will take good care of it." "I am not so sure," Nick Kendall said. "I have been hearing stories about Mrs. Ashley and her first husband. They were both well known for their bad lives. They spent money carelessly." "That can't be true," I cried. "True or not," my godfather replied, "I'm afraid that collar must go back to the bank." "But I gave it to my cousin Rachel as a present. She has a right to wear the collar." "Only if Ambrose had lived," Nick Kendall said. "That collar of pearls is worn by the Ashley brides, no one else. If you do not ask Mrs. Ashley to give it back, I will." Then suddenly, my cousin Rachel and Louise were in the room. "You are quite right, Mr. Kendall," my cousin Rachel said. "I was very proud to wear the collar, and now I shall give it back."
and she took off the collar and gave it to my godfather.
"Thank you, Mrs. Ashley," he said. "And now Louise and I must go. We wish you both a happy Christmas."
When they had gone, my cousin Rachel held out her arms. I went up to her. "I'm so sorry," I said. "Everything has gone wrong. My mother wore those pearls on her wedding day. That is why I wanted you to have them. Don't you understand?" "Of course I do, Philip, dear," she said. "If Ambrose and I had been married here, he would have given them to me on my wedding day." I said nothing. My cousin Rachel had not understood. I was thinking of another wedding day, a wedding day in the future. Chapter 11. Rinaldi again. The new year began, and my birthday on the 1st of April was 3 months away. How I wanted to have control of my own money. I was tired of Nick Kendall being my guardian. However, I could spend money on the house. I decided to make it beautiful for Rachel. There were many repairs to be done. From January, I had nearly 20 men working for me. The bills for the work were sent to my godfather. Rachel and I had many plans for the gardens, too. Work had started on a sunken water garden. We had found the design for the water garden in one of Rachel's books. Because there were so many workmen in the house, we could not have visitors. My cousin Rachel and I stayed quietly at home, and I was very happy. I loved to watch Rachel move about the house. I loved to hear her voice. When her hands touched me, my heart beat faster. The first days of spring came, and the sun shone. Then something happened which took all my happiness away again. I had kept one of Ambrose's old coats to wear myself. One day, as I was walking in the woods, I felt something in a pocket. It was another letter from Ambrose. I was pleased that I was alone. I walked on until I reached the highest place on the estate. Ambrose had always loved to sit there. I sat down and held the letter in my hands. I did not want to open it. I was afraid that Ambrose had written something bad about Rachel. We were so happy together now that I wanted to forget the past. But at last I opened the letter. It had been written 3 months before his death, but he had never posted it. My cousin Rachel, Ambrose wrote, had been expecting a child, but it had died. The doctors told her that she could never have another child. At first, Rachel was quiet and unhappy. Then she began to spend money carelessly. Ambrose suspected that Rinaldi was in love with her. For these reasons, Ambrose had not signed his new will, in which he left everything to Rachel. Ambrose also wrote about his terrible headaches. He told me about the fever which at first made him violent. Then it made him very weak. Ambrose was very unhappy, and he had written, "You are the only person who can help me, Philip. Are Rachel and Rinaldi trying to poison me for my money? I must know." I hid the terrible letter under a large stone, and walked slowly back to the house. I could not forget Ambrose's words, but I decided that Rachel must never know about the letter. In 3 weeks' time, the estate and all the money would be mine. But this was not right. Ambrose had made a new will, but he had not signed it because of his illness. His money belonged to Rachel. She must have it. That night, I asked Rachel about Ambrose's will. She showed me a copy of it, which I read carefully. Everything had been left to Rachel. Then, if she had died without children, everything was to be mine. "Why did Ambrose not sign this will?" I asked. "Tell me, Rachel." "I don't know," she answered quietly. "Perhaps